Day 10 at the Diddy trial, and this morning we saw testimony from Capricorn Clark, longtime assistant to Diddy on and off between 2004 and 2018. She documented a whole new series of crimes that we had not yet heard about while corroborating testimony from Kid Cudi and Cassie Ventura. I am Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. I'm an attorney in downtown New York, covering this trial and dropping 2 videos a day, letting you know what's happening inside the courtroom and giving you a legal perspective on matters that you're not going to get from legacy media. If you like that type of coverage, I urge you to please like, share, and subscribe as I bring you details and perspectives you're not finding elsewhere. Now, when Capricorn Clark took the stand today, we had already heard her name several times. During testimony from Cassie Ventura and Kid Cudi, they both identified her as someone they recognize as an ally in the Diddy world, someone who could be a liaison at times to work between them and Diddy when Diddy was particularly outraged with them individually. Now, Capricorn worked for Diddy and was first started a relationship with him as a friend of his going back to 2002 and started working for him in 2004, taking various roles. And then she told over one of the new crimes she talked about, potential crimes at least, is that in 2004 there was a theft of some jewelry. Some jewelry went missing, and that it had been in her possession, and that Diddy had her take a lie detector test for 5 days. 5 days. She said from 10 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night that she was locked in a building on the 6th floor with a guy who was 5 times as wide as she is, and forced to go through grueling lie detector examination from this individual day after day after day. And that she was threatened that if in fact she failed this lie detector test, that he was going to kill her. Now, she was fired sometime there afterwards and brought back on when they were trying to make arrangements for Kid Cudi, for Diddy's 35th birthday. And she had shown a knack for being able to deal with celebrities. She'd been working with him on various campaigns and shown a knack for assembling different celebrities. They brought her on for that party and stayed on there. And her relationship goes on and off. She'll work for a couple of years and then some incident will happen and she'll leave. She ends up at a later period of time where she works as the PR manager for Cassie Ventura near the end of her tenure. And she basically, throughout her time there, has a very close interpersonal relationship with Diddy where she's working with him on a day-by-day basis. Now, some of the stuff that she ended up corroborating and the really intriguing testimony that came from Capricorn related to the incident with Kid Cudi that happened at the end of 2011. This is right before Christmas, at which time we've now had 3 witnesses who have testified between Cassie, Kid Cudi, and Capricorn Clark to the outrage that Diddy displayed when he first learned of an ongoing relationship between Cassie Ventura and Kid Cudi. Now, Capricorn had known about this relationship for a while. She testified that she went with Cassie to get her burner phone because she was concerned that if Diddy would find out about this relationship, that all hell would break loose, and she figured that Diddy controlled her phone and that the best thing for her to do would be to get a burner phone. When Diddy found out about this, she said it was on December 22nd, 2011, that he came to her and took her at gunpoint in a car saying, "We're going to get Cassie," and that they had gone to Cassie's house. They had gone to Kid Cudi's house and they were driving around and they were they stopped off at a hotel for a while and were hanging out a couple of miles away from Kid Cudi's house, and the different interactions that she had with Cassie and Kid Cudi by phone at the express direction of Diddy. Now, Diddy saw that there was a personal relationship between Capricorn Clark and Cassie. And at one point during that day, before the police had arrived, when they saw that the police were going to be coming, and he said that Diddy seemed to calm a little bit when he saw the police involvement was coming down. That he had Cassie he had Capricorn collect Cassie to bring her back to his house, and that was what she did. She, at Diddy's direction, according to Capricorn, called up Cassie and told Cassie that Diddy refuses to let her go, meaning he's going to hold on to Capricorn until Cassie would come, and was essentially using her as a bargaining chip, that she was being held hostage by Diddy until Cassie would come and meet with Diddy. Now, this is what, and in fact, the testimony opened, very near the opening statement. One of the first questions she got was, "Were you kidnapped by Diddy?" And she said yes. And that's the incident she's referring to, not the incident so much with the lie detector test, which some would qualify as a kidnapping in 2004, but the 2011 incident is what they're referring to as a kidnapping. After she ends up collecting Cassie, she also was directed to go to Kid Cudi and contact him and tell him that with the police coming to his house, that he should not identify Diddy as the person who came to his house or having any relationship to it. Otherwise, quote unquote, he said he will kill us all. Meaning, presumably Capricorn, Cassie, and Kid Cudi, that he was threatening that if the police were notified of his involvement in approaching Kid Cudi's house, when Kid Cudi called the police and ended up reporting a break-in, that if he would identify Diddy, that he would kill them all. So this is all very consistent with the testimony that we heard from both Cassie and from Kid Cudi as to the events that went down near the end of 2011. He said after he got Cassie, that Capricorn brought Cassie back to Diddy's house. And that Diddy, this is the hours after Diddy had learned of the relationship between Cassie and Kid Cudi, that he kept kicking her, never using his hands, kicking her in the legs, kicking her in the back, and that she would go back a couple of steps and go back a couple of steps until she ended up going back into the street. He literally kicking her out of her house, not in the way of saying get out, and she's steadily curling more and more into the fetal position. She's crying as she's giving this testimony as to how pitiful Cassie looked and how she didn't intervene because Diddy warned her that if he tries intervening, that he was going to beat her as well, and eventually directing her to leave. And that as she's walking away, she could still hear him kicking her as she's just laying on the ground crying and in a fetal position. What part of her body is he kicking? Whatever part he could access are the parts that he was kicking. Who else was there throughout this entire time? Well, he had a bodyguard with him by the name of Ruben, one of the bodyguards whose names we have heard throughout the course of testimony from other witnesses, including Cassie and Kid Cudi, and that he did nothing to intervene. Capricorn said that she said to Ruben, "You have to do something," when he was, as she says, kicking the snot out of Cassie, not using that word, but that Ruben refused to intervene. She called up another bodyguard who was identified as an ally, so to speak, of Cassie, by the name of D-Rock, and he said that he'll take care of it, but nothing was happening. She said she didn't call the police and she was asked, "Why didn't you call the police?" And she said because the whole incident with Kid Cudi made it very clear that Diddy was not going to tolerate her contacting the police. But what she did do was that she called Regina Ventura, Cassie's mother, and told her the same thing she told D-Rock, that Diddy is kicking the snot out of your daughter, and she said that she'll take care of it, and that she was fired shortly thereafter, but that she had further exchanges with Diddy at other times where he's seen outraged about the fact and asking how long you knew about this and why didn't you tell me about this. And then a few weeks later, she ends up getting fired, which she claims were under false pretenses, and the lawsuits that she filed as a result of her wrongful employment. And she ends up coming back to work, and she ends up working back in 2018. Like I said, this is a very on and off relationship that they have here. But what's significant about this testimony, and she's currently in the middle of going through cross, and the defense is certainly going down this particular direction, that you keep coming back. You keep describing these conditions that are absolutely horrific. No one should be working in this type of situation, watching Diddy engage in abuse, commit crimes, and trying to cover up those crimes, telling people if you talk to the police, I'm going to kill you, trying to obstruct those crimes. All of these different things that you've seen and the defense is setting up, but you keep coming back. You keep coming back, implying to the jury, from the defense's perspective, hopefully, that they shouldn't trust her testimony that was nearly as horrific as she was describing. This has been thematic throughout the defense cross-examinations we've seen so far, where Agnifilo would continually ask every witness we've seen who has spent extended times with Diddy and complained of various abuses, or that they saw or witnessed or were victims of themselves, that you had fun, that were good times. This has been the theme, to try and isolate the particular incidents of abuse and brutality and potentially criminal conduct into being in a box and separate and apart from the overall atmosphere of being in Diddy world. We're still in the middle of cross-examination. I will let you know how that unfolds as this continues. I'm Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic, an attorney in downtown New York, covering this every day. I urge you, if you like this type of conduct, please make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell. Till next time, Godspeed.